Hey YouTube, Joyboy here. So, there's really not a lot that I have to complain about Whole Cake Island. There's many people who, are in various ways dissatisfied with how things have been and how things might go, but I'm not really part of that crowd. But that is not really for every aspect of this arc. There's a couple things that have happened that left me sort of scratching my head. One of those was actually pretty recently with the turn of the Vinsmoke. And guys, if you checked out my first reaction to that particular chapter, I made it very clear just how salty I was that they turned because it didn't make any sense to me. I even had Rogers Base call me out on Twitter, full disclosure that he thought that I was just mad that my theory was wrong. And after thinking about it, after my first reaction to that chapter, I found a bunch of evidence to corroborate my train of thought. It just didn't make any sense for Ichiji to have just forgiven Sanji like that. I could accept Judge, but I could not accept Ichiji. And then shortly after that, we can see in the chapter where it seems like Ichiji is pretty, or at least notes the fact that he is no longer bound by Judge Vinsmoke's command, further substantiating the thought that Ichiji might still have a conflict with Sanji before Whole Cake Island finishes. Another example of something like this occurring was the entire deal with the exploding wristbands that Big Mom gave to the Vinsmokes to put on Sanji so that he could not escape Whole Cake Island. I was actually so salty about that, I made a video specifically dedicated to talking about it and why I was disappointed. To introduce it into the plot and have it have significance and have it influence the motivation of the character, and then just to take it away as though it never existed, was a plot contrivance. It was also completely unnecessary because Sanji had many other reasons why he couldn't leave. This one was not important, aside from the fact that it necessitated direct conflict with Big Mom. And Oda even gave us a way in which he could get the cuffs off of him by going directly to Big Mom. And it never really made sense to me for Revujo to have swapped out the cuffs the entire time, and to have never told Sanji. What was the purpose of doing that? You're allowing him an opportunity to escape, but as long as he believes that if he tries to escape he'll lose his hands, he won't try to escape. So Revujo, you actually have to tell Sanji, yo, by the way, you can escape at your leisure because the cuffs that you're wearing are fakes. And it wasn't until, essentially Sanji could have already left before Revujo decided to drop that info on him as though it was no big deal. And let's be real with ourselves. How in the flying hell would she be able to switch out the cuffs with a identical but fake pair of non-exploding cuffs? And did I mishear her here when she stated that she wouldn't help Sanji any more than just giving him a mask that would cover up his beat up face? Like, wouldn't this constitute as doing far more than that? So anyway guys, these thoughts being shared with you again, I want to give you a scenario in which I think that the cuffs can come back into the story, and I think it's incredibly relevant after the latest chapter of One Piece. But I want you guys to understand that as much as I actually believe that the cuffs will play a role, a lot of it may be influenced by my own want. My want for Oda to not have made it a contrivance. So I may be biased, but I don't think that takes away from the theoretical possibility of what I'm about to share with you. So let me start with the first thing that I noticed that honestly should put up red flags for you as it puts up red flags for me, which is that, yes, Revujo stated that she switched out Sanji's wristlets with fakes. But guys, Sanji never even attempted to take off these fake wristlets. He's still wearing them. It's actually been really hard to tell for the last 13 or so chapters because Sanji had been wearing his shirt, long sleeve shirt, all the way down to his wrists. But before the tea party started, up until Capone and Sanji and Luffy and everyone were negotiating, you can still see that Sanji is wearing his wristlets. After this tea party has completed in the very last chapter of One Piece, we can see Sanji has rolled up his shirt, or at least it appears that way. It's very, very hard to tell, and it appears that there is something around his wrist. If these wristlets were indeed a plot contrivance and meant to go away as soon as Revujo stated that they were fakes, why hasn't Oda made Sanji take them off? It's a real head scratcher. And so on top of that, just putting on my tinfoil hat here, conspiracy theorist Joy Boy at your disposal. You know, if you try and take off the wristlets, they are supposed to explode, assuming that they are real. And so let's assume that Revujo, for whatever reason, didn't actually switch out the wristlets with a fake pair. If Sanji even attempted to take off those, then they would explode. It really makes you wonder if this is the reason why Oda has not allowed Sanji to try yet. But you know, the last thing that I said isn't entirely accurate, because Sanji actually has tried to take off his wristlets in the past, very shortly after they were put on him. And I noticed something really interesting, which is that when Sanji actually tried to take them off, they made this beeping sound, which is really curious to me. It's in fact the very same sound that the actual neck wristlets that the celestial dragons put on their slaves, what they wear. It's the same exact sound before they explode. And so this begs another question, which is the fake pair that Revujo somehow put on Sanji also beeps as though they are real? So they do everything but explode is what I'm getting from this. And Revujo somehow knew that this particular pair doesn't explode. Did she make it not explode before she put it on Sanji? But that isn't exactly what she said. She said that she switched it out with a dud pair. The amount of confusion in this situation is only increasing. I really think the biggest hurdle, though, to believe in something like this happening is believing how it could be possible. I think at this point in time, it's incredibly difficult to question the motives of Revujo. Based on all the context clues and everything within the story, it's very clear that this is something that she would have actually liked to do. I just question whether or not it would have been possible, and why exactly Sanji would still be wearing them if they were irrelevant. But you know, I do see one pathway which would make something like this possible, which is, you know, when it comes to Pudding, we only saw her manipulate one person's memory, and that person was Revujo. And why exactly Pudding would manipulate Reiju's memory in order to make her believe that she swapped out Sanji's cuffs with a fake pair, I can't say that I know exactly why, but I think that we can judge based on the chapters after that point in time that Pudding is extremely conflicted about Sanji, and it seems as though her evil side won out for the vast majority of the time leading up to now. Even in the last chapter, that side of her might be winning. Is it really out of the question for Pudding to attempt to manipulate Reiju's memory in the off chance that, you know, Revujo tells Sanji that she switched out the cuffs so that Sanji might blow his hands up? I honestly don't find it overly ridiculous. It fits in with her cruel personality that she displayed while interrogating Revujo in the first place. She said, "Give me a proper prince to marry." It's also possible that if Sanji potentially injuring himself could give Pudding more time to think about what it is that she wants to do. Perhaps force the Vinsmoke to switch out Sanji with someone else because she was being tasked with murdering the groom. But I could really spend all day trying to rationalize a crazy person's thoughts. The point is that Pudding tampering with Reiju's memories gives for a possibility for Sanji's cuffs to actually still be real. Coupled with the fact that he's still wearing them, they made beeping noises that are very similar to the actual exploding neck wristlets. And so along the same train of thought, guys, when Revujo tells Sanji that she switched out the wristlets with a fake, she is shown closing her eyes while she is speaking. Now, usually when I do this, it's because I'm thinking, I'm trying to remember what it is that I want to say while I speak. Is that what Revujo is doing here? This could definitely add credence to the idea that her memory is kind of foggy about what it is that she did or didn't do. Regardless, this is the only time she ever does this. The timing for this situation also works out perfectly, because you'll know that Revujo said that she would not help Sanji any further than the mask, but yet she appears to have. But she doesn't reveal this information of having switched out the cuffs until after Pudding has manipulated her memories. You actually have the makings here of a legit theory. Now, I'm not going to claim this to be true, but I think that it can be very persuasive. And so, with this being a possibility, and analyzing the last chapter of One Piece, with the Straw Hats on the verge of escaping from Whole Cake Island, this could become relevant. And so there's a lot of potential ways that these Straw Hats could get stalled or in some way forced to stay on Whole Cake Island. But if they are ever in a situation in which they are actually capable of escaping Whole Cake Island, then this is where I would begin to speculate that perhaps Oda will keep them in Whole Cake Island because of Sanji's wristlets, which might start going off if he attempts to leave Whole Cake Island. This would actually necessitate the Straw Hats defeating or in some way incapacitating Big Mom to potentially get the keys off of her. But remember guys, this is just an idea. I do think that there are plenty of reasons to believe in it, but my word is not law. There's a lot of possibility that I'm wrong as well. But I thought it was interesting and worth sharing, definitely keeping in mind as of what happened in the very last chapter of One Piece. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree or disagree and why. Share your thoughts. Like the video if you like the video. Dislike the video if you dislike the video. Subscribe to be notified for my future content. And if you would like to support my content, there will be a link to Patreon in the description.